Hi, people of St. Francis. This is Michael Belt again. Today is Friday, January 8th, and it is the feast of Harriet Bedell, deaconess and missionary. And the gospel reading for today is from Matthew 5:1 through 12. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." I'm going to go out on a limb, and probably not too far out on a limb, and say that this is one of the most troubling times in modern history to be a Christian. Many of us sit and watch in awe as our faith, the thing that's supposed to tie us together, becomes more fractured and factionalized. We mourn as we see the love of God become co-opted by the love of power and vainglory. And I've heard more than one person say that in recent times they want to stop being a Christian. Not that they want to stop worshiping God or to stop walking in the footsteps of Christ, but to distance themselves from this thing that seems to be morphing and changing into something else. But 2,000 years ago, Jesus knew this. He knew the struggles and trials we'd face. And in the Beatitudes, he simultaneously gives us a fair warning of them and offers words of comfort and encouragement. We talk a lot about how on the cross of Calvary, Jesus took on the sins of the world and paid the price for all of them once and for all. And while that's true, and certainly a cornerstone of our religion, it's not just our sins he took on. Jesus, fully human yet fully divine, took on our doubt, he took on our pain, he took on our moments of hopelessness and helplessness. He took on every time we felt like giving up and just shaking our fist at the sky. Jesus knew we'd go through addiction and divorce and heartache, feelings of helplessness and grief. Jesus knew that we'd go through what St. John of the Cross called the dark night of the soul. And some of these things he endured himself, such as moments of spiritual pain and grief in the garden. And in doing so, he radically changed how we grieve, where we put our hope, and what defines us as people of God. What Jesus now defines as being blessed are no longer based on merits of works or of ceremonies, but based on merits of character. He tells us that blessed are the poor in spirit, because the poor in spirit know that they need to rely on God's grace more than their own sense of being overly ambitious or full of conceit. The poor in spirit are perfectly illustrated by Jesus' parable of the publican and the Pharisee. We know from that parable, that the Pharisee, a great religious leader, sits and praises God for how good he is. He thanks God for the fact that he's a good man and not like that tax collector over there. And in his pride, he misses the point of prayer, whereas the publican merely beats his breast and says, "Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner." That's his whole prayer. And at the end of that parable, Jesus tells us only one of them went away justified that day. He tells us, "Blessed are those who mourn." And heaven knows there are so many ways to mourn. We can mourn our own sin, and in doing so, hopefully grow in godliness. Or we can mourn for others and grow in compassion and kindness. We can mourn when there is a lack of justice, and when the world isn't arranged so that opportunity and power aren't tilted in the favor of the weak and the downtrodden. When we can mourn our own losses and hurts and pains, when we can take that grief to God, or we can simply ask Jesus to sit and commiserate with us for a moment in prayer. He tells us, blessed are the meek. And meekness doesn't always mean mousy or weak. Meekness is also shown in being slow to judge, slow to anger, and slow to condemn. In the Magnificat, the Blessed Mother says, He has put down the mighty from their seat and exalted the humble and meek. Jesus also tells us that the merciful and pure in heart are blessed. And who else but Jesus, whose death and passion was an act of universal mercy, is more fit to tell us that? Mercy, paired with forgiveness, is another absolute cornerstone of Christianity. Jesus tells us to neither judge nor seek retribution on our own, but to practice mercy. Jesus reminds us that an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. He also tells us that the pure in heart are blessed. We are no longer made pure by actions and purification ceremonies and what we eat or don't eat. We are made pure by our intentions and our love. We are made pure by how we treat others, how we love, and who we love, which is supposed to be everybody. We are made pure by loving others as Christ loves us, and in doing so, we become co-heirs with Him. It's easy to want to give up, but Jesus, one with God the Father since the beginning and wielding all the power of creation in His fingertips, who humbled Himself to death and to the cross, never gave up. And in the Beatitudes, He invites us to not give up with Him. Thank you for taking the time to sit with me today, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.